What if I told you that almost every decision you've ever made, every belief you hold, every opinion you defend, wasn't really yours? What if I told you that your thoughts were planted, your choices were influenced, and your reality was shaped long before you even had a chance to question it? Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. Why do you believe what you believe? Because you examined all possible truths and arrived at your own conclusion? Or because you were taught to think a certain way? From the moment you were born, your mind has been programmed by society, by media, by the people around you. And the scariest part, you never even noticed. But here's the real danger. If you don't control your thoughts, someone else will. If you don't question the information you consume, you'll believe whatever you're told. And if you don't learn how to think critically, you'll spend your entire life following someone else's script, never truly living on your own terms. This isn't just about intelligence. Some of the smartest people in the world are also the most easily manipulated because they never learn to challenge their own minds. They fall for half-truths, get swayed by emotional arguments, and make decisions that aren't even their own. So the question is, are you ready to wake up? Because once you see the truth, you can never go back. In this audiobook, we're diving deep into the hidden forces that shape your thinking, the mental traps that keep you stuck, and the tools you need to break free. By the end, you won't just be thinking differently, you'll be seeing the world through an entirely new lens. And once you do, you'll never be controlled again. Chapter 1. The War on Your Mind. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that half of what you believe about yourself, the world, and even the people around you was never truly your own thoughts. They were planted, shaped, and manipulated by forces you barely noticed. Sounds terrifying, right? Well, that's the reality most people live in. Society bombards you with information, opinions, and half-truths, and if you don't know how to think critically, you become just another pawn in the game. Critical thinking isn't just some intellectual skill, it's a survival tool. Every time you scroll through social media, every time you watch the news, every time you make a decision, you're either in control of your mind or someone else is. And trust me, there are plenty of people out there who would love to think for you. Politicians, corporations, influencers, everyone has an agenda. The question is, do you have yours? The human brain is wired for shortcuts. It loves patterns, quick answers, and feeling right. But that's exactly why so many people fall for misinformation and emotional manipulation. It's easier to believe something that aligns with your existing worldview than to question it. Your brain actually rewards you for it. Every time you confirm what you already think, it releases dopamine. Yes, the same chemical that makes you feel good when you eat junk food or win a game. That's why arguing with someone who refuses to listen feels impossible. They're literally addicted to their own ignorance. So, how do you break free? You start by realizing that your brain isn't always on your side. Your instincts can be tricked, your emotions can be used against you, and your beliefs can be built on lies. The first step to mastering critical thinking is accepting that you don't know everything. And that's a good thing, because the moment you admit that, you become stronger than 90% of people who blindly accept whatever they're told. But here's where it gets interesting. What if everything you think you know about thinking is wrong? Chapter 2. The Lies You Tell Yourself. You think you're a rational person, right? You make decisions based on logic, facts, and reason. Well, hate to break it to you, but you don't. Nobody does. Most of what you believe is based on emotions, assumptions, and experiences that have little to do with reality. The worst part, you don't even realize it. Your brain is a master storyteller, constantly rewriting the past to make it fit your current beliefs. Ever argued with someone and later thought of the perfect comeback? Your mind actually tricks you into thinking you almost said it just to protect your ego. That's how powerful self-deception is. Think about the last time you made a bad decision. Maybe you stayed in a toxic relationship, spent money you didn't have, or ignored a red flag that was screaming in your face. At the time, it probably felt like the right choice. That's because your brain is a master at justifying your actions. It doesn't care about truth. It cares about making you feel good. This is why people double down on bad decisions instead of admitting they were wrong. It's not that they're stupid, it's that their brain is protecting them from the pain of being wrong. But here's the brutal truth. The more you lie to yourself, the easier you are to manipulate. And the world is full of people who will take advantage of that. marketers, politicians, even your own friends and family sometimes use your biases against you. If you don't develop the ability to see through your own self-deception, you're not really in control of your life. So how do you stop lying to yourself? You start questioning everything. Every belief, every assumption, every gut feeling, test them. Because if you don't, someone else will use them against you. But here's the real kicker. What if the biggest lies you believe are the ones that feel the most true? Chapter 3. The illusion of free thought. If I told you that most of your opinions weren't actually yours, would you believe me? Probably not. That's exactly what makes this so dangerous. We all like to think we have free will, that we form our own beliefs based on careful thought. But in reality, your mind is like a sponge. It soaks up everything around it, whether you realize it or not. Think about your political views, your taste in music, even the way you dress. How much of that is truly you, and how much is just an echo of the people around you? The scary part is that this process happens without you noticing. Your brain is designed to follow the herd because, for most of human history, that's what kept people alive. If you strayed too far from the group, you risked getting left behind. That instinct is still in you. Social media amplifies this problem tenfold. You're constantly being fed opinions disguised as facts, stories crafted to provoke emotions, and narratives designed to keep you engaged. Ever wonder why outrage spreads faster than facts? It's because anger is addictive. When you see something that makes you mad, your brain locks in. You share it, comment on it, argue about it, and in the process, you reinforce the belief that you're on the right side. But here's the terrifying part. If you never challenge your own beliefs, how do you know they're even real? How do you know you're not just repeating what someone else planted in your mind? This is why critical thinking is so rare, because it requires you to do something incredibly uncomfortable. Admit that you might be wrong. Most people will never do this. They'll spend their whole lives defending beliefs they never actually chose, fighting battles that aren't really theirs. But you don't have to be one of them. You can take control. It starts with one simple question. What if everything I believe is just a story I've been told? Chapter 4. The fear of being wrong. Let's be real. Nobody likes being wrong. It stings. It makes you feel stupid, exposed, maybe even embarrassed. That's why most people will go to insane lengths to avoid admitting it. They'll argue, deny, and twist reality just to protect their ego. But here's the problem. When you're too afraid to be wrong, you stop learning. Think about the last time you were in an argument. Maybe you knew, deep down, that the other person had a point. But instead of considering it, you doubled down. It wasn't about logic anymore. It was about pride. That's human nature. Your brain sees being wrong as a threat, the same way it would if you were facing a predator thousands of years ago. Back then, being wrong could get you killed. Today, it just bruises your ego, but your brain doesn't know the difference. This is why people cling to bad ideas even when the evidence is against them. Look at history. How long did people believe the earth was flat? How many refused to accept that smoking was dangerous? The fear of being wrong is so powerful that it can keep entire generations trapped in ignorance. But you don't have to be one of them. The smartest people aren't the ones who are always right. They're the ones who are willing to be wrong, because they know that's the only way to get smarter. So, next time you find yourself resisting a new idea, ask yourself, am I defending the truth or just protecting my ego? Because the moment you stop fearing being wrong, you start unlocking real intelligence. But what happens when the people around you refuse to do the same? Chapter 5. Escaping the echo chamber. Ever notice how the more you believe something, the more proof you seem to find for it? That's not an accident, it's a trap. It's called confirmation bias, and it's the reason people get stuck in echo chambers, only hearing opinions that match their own. Social media has turned this into an epidemic. The algorithm doesn't show you the truth, it shows you what you already agree with. If you believe one side of an issue, you'll keep getting content that reinforces it, while everything else fades into the background. It feels like reality is confirming your beliefs, but in reality, you're just living in a digital illusion. This is dangerous. When you never hear opposing viewpoints, you stop questioning your own. You start seeing the other side as stupid, evil, or brainwashed, rather than just people who see the world differently. This is how polarization happens. This is why families break apart over politics, why people lose friendships over opinions, and why entire societies become divided. Breaking free from this requires something most people aren't willing to do, listening to the other side. Not to argue, not to prove them wrong, but to genuinely understand. You don't have to agree, you just have to be willing to hear it. Because the moment you realize that the people who disagree with you aren't as crazy as you thought, that's the moment you start thinking for yourself. But here's the question. If the world is built to keep you inside an echo chamber, how do you escape? Chapter 6. The Art of Asking Better Questions. Most people think intelligence is about having the right answers. It's not. It's about asking the right questions. Because the truth is, if you don't ask good questions, you'll never get good answers. Think about it. How often do people ask real questions? Not the kind that are just waiting for a specific answer, but the kind that actually challenge the way they think? Hardly ever. That's why people get stuck in the same beliefs, making the same mistakes, living the same lives. They never ask why. The best thinkers in history, from Socrates to Einstein, had one thing in common. They questioned everything. They weren't afraid to look stupid, to challenge authority, to ask the questions nobody else dared to ask. That's why they saw the world differently. So how do you do the same? Start by questioning your own beliefs. Every single one. Why do you believe what you believe? Where did those ideas come from? What if they're wrong? The more uncomfortable a question makes you, the more important it is to ask. Because growth doesn't come from knowing. It comes from not knowing and being willing to find out. But most people won't do this. They'll cling to their opinions like a security blanket, afraid of what they might find if they let go. The question is, are you brave enough to let go and see what's on the other side? Chapter 7. Breaking free from mental shortcuts. Your brain is lazy, not because you are, but because it was designed that way. Evolution didn't care about making you a deep thinker. It cared about keeping you alive. And the best way to do that? Quick decisions, mental shortcuts. Patterns that save time and energy. But in today's world, these shortcuts don't just fail you, they actively work against you. Think about this. Have you ever made a snap judgment about someone based on how they looked? Ever assumed something was true just because everyone else believed it? Ever been convinced you were right even when you had no real proof? That's not logic at work. That's cognitive bias. And it's the reason so many people live their lives trapped in false beliefs. One of the most dangerous mental shortcuts is the halo effect. When you assume someone is smart, good, or trustworthy just because they're attractive, confident, or successful. It's why people fall for scams, idolize celebrities, and trust politicians who smile well on camera. On the flip side, the horn effect makes you distrust or dislike someone just because of one negative trait. If a person seems rude, you assume they're also incompetent, untrustworthy, or even dangerous without any actual evidence. Another deadly bias? The availability heuristic, where your brain assumes that whatever comes to mind the fastest must be the truth. This is why people overestimate crime rates just because they hear about crimes on the news. It's why plane crashes seem more dangerous than car accidents, even though cars kill far more people. Your brain doesn't care about statistics. It cares about what's easiest to remember. So how do you break free? First, slow down. Whenever you feel yourself making a fast judgment, ask yourself, is this really true or just what my brain wants to believe? Second, challenge your assumptions. If you find yourself trusting someone too quickly, ask why. If you instantly dislike someone, ask yourself if it's fair. Your brain is a tool, but only if you use it consciously. Otherwise, it's just another puppet being controlled by the world around you. But what if I told you there's something even worse than mental shortcuts? Something that can make you believe lies, even when the truth is right in front of you. Chapter 8. The Power of Manipulation. What if I told you that most of your decisions weren't actually yours? That every day, in ways both small and massive, you're being influenced without even realizing it? Sounds like a conspiracy, right? But it's not. It's just psychology. Take this. Ever walked into a store and suddenly felt the urge to buy something you didn't plan on? That's not an accident. Stores are designed to manipulate you. The lighting, the music, even the way products are placed. It's all psychological warfare on your wallet. Fast food chains use red and yellow because those colors trigger hunger. Supermarkets put the essentials, milk, eggs, bread, all the way at the back, forcing you to walk past dozens of tempting products just to get what you need. And it's not just businesses. Politicians, influencers, news channels, they all use psychological tricks to shape your opinions. Ever notice how political ads don't just tell you why their candidate is great, they tell you why the other guy is dangerous? That's because fear is more powerful than logic. If they can make you afraid, they can make you obedient. One of the biggest manipulation tactics, the illusion of choice. Ever notice how news networks on opposite sides of the political spectrum cover the same event in completely different ways? It's not because one is lying and the other isn't. It's because both are telling carefully selected parts of the truth. They give you two options, A or B, and make you feel like you're thinking for yourself. But what if the real truth is somewhere between or completely outside those options? This is why critical thinking isn't just a skill, it's a shield. It's how you see through the manipulation, how you recognize when someone is trying to control your mind, and once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. Suddenly, you'll notice the patterns everywhere, in advertising, in politics, even in your relationships. But knowing isn't enough. The real question is, now that you're aware, what are you going to do about it? Chapter 9. How to win any argument. Let's face it, nobody likes losing an argument. But here's the thing, most people don't actually argue to learn or find the truth. They argue to win, and that's exactly why they lose. Ever been in a debate where no matter what you said, the other person just wouldn't budge? No matter how many facts you threw at them, they refused to listen? That's because most arguments aren't about logic. They're about emotions. And if you don't understand that, you'll never change anyone's mind. The first rule of winning an argument, stop trying to win. Sounds counterintuitive, but think about it. Have you ever changed your mind because someone aggressively told you that you were wrong? Probably not. People don't respond to force, they respond to understanding. Instead of attacking their beliefs, ask questions. Make them explain their logic. The more they talk, the more likely they are to realize the flaws in their own thinking. The second rule, control the frame. Arguments aren't just about facts. They're about who sets the rules. If someone insults you, don't take the bait. If they try to change the subject, steer it back. If they try to overwhelm you with information, slow the conversation down. The moment you let someone else control the frame, you've already lost. The third rule, use their own logic against them. Instead of just saying, you're wrong, try, if that's true, then wouldn't this also be true? Make them confront the contradictions in their thinking. Most people's beliefs aren't built on solid logic. They're built on emotions, biases, and assumptions. When you make them see those cracks, their own mind does the rest. And the final rule, know when to walk away. Some people don't argue to learn. They argue to win at all costs. They'll twist words, ignore logic, and refuse to admit they're wrong, no matter how much evidence you present. With these people, the smartest move isn't proving your point. It's realizing that their mind is a prison, and there's no key. But here's the bigger lesson. Arguments aren't just about other people. They're also about you. Because every time you argue, you get a glimpse of your own mind, your biases, your blind spots, your emotional triggers. And if you're willing to see those clearly, then every argument, win or lose, makes you stronger. So next time you find yourself in a debate, ask yourself, am I fighting to be right or fighting to be better? Chapter 10. The lies you tell yourself. You think you know yourself. But what if I told you that your own brain is constantly lying to you? And worse, you're believing every single lie without even questioning it. Think about this. Have you ever told yourself you're not good enough? That you'll never be successful? That you don't deserve happiness? Or that it's too late to change? These thoughts don't come from logic. They come from fear. And fear is the biggest liar you'll ever meet. Your mind is wired for self-preservation, not self-improvement. It wants to keep you safe, even if that means keeping you small. It would rather convince you to stay in your comfort zone than risk failure. That's why you procrastinate. It's not laziness, it's self-protection. That's why you doubt yourself. It's not reality, it's a defense mechanism. One of the most dangerous lies you tell yourself, I can't. The moment you believe this, you stop trying. And when you stop trying, you create a self-fulfilling prophecy. You fail. not because you weren't capable, but because you convinced yourself you weren't. Another lie? I'll do it later. Later is the most seductive lie ever invented. It makes you feel responsible while keeping you stuck. Later never comes. Later is just another word for never. And then there's, it's too late for me. This is the lie people tell themselves when they're afraid to start over. But here's the truth. The people who succeed in life aren't the ones who started early. They're the ones who started, period. So how do you fight back? You expose the lies. Every time your brain tells you something negative, question it. Where's the proof? Is this an actual fact or just a belief you've accepted without challenge? Because once you stop believing your own excuses, you become unstoppable. But self-deception isn't the only thing keeping you stuck. There's something even deeper, something you don't even realize is controlling you. Chapter 11. The hidden forces controlling you. You think you're in control of your own mind, but the truth is, every single day, your thoughts, your emotions, even your choices are being shaped by forces you don't even see. And unless you wake up to this reality, you'll spend your life being controlled without ever realizing it. Take social conditioning, the invisible script that tells you what to believe, how to behave, and what's possible for you. Who decided what success looks like? Who told you that a stable 9-to-5 job is safer than taking a risk? Who made you believe that struggling is just part of life? These weren't your ideas. They were planted in you by society, your parents, your teachers, your culture. And unless you question them, they'll define your entire existence. Then there's confirmation bias, the force that makes you blind to anything that challenges your current beliefs. Once you believe something, your brain actively filters out any evidence that proves you wrong. That's why people can see the same event and have completely different reactions. That's why political debates go nowhere. It's not about truth. It's about what people want to be true. And let's not forget emotional conditioning, how your past experiences shape your future actions. Ever wonder why certain situations trigger you? Why you react so strongly to things that seem small? It's because your brain has connected past pain with present reality. Maybe a single rejection years ago convinced you that you're unlovable. Maybe one failure convinced you that you're not capable. And now, without realizing it, you sabotage yourself before you even begin. But here's the good news. Once you see these hidden forces, they lose their power. When you start questioning where your beliefs come from, you take back control. When you realize your emotions are programmed responses, you can rewrite them. And once you do that, you stop being a puppet and start being the master of your own mind. But awareness isn't enough, because there's one final thing that separates those who break free from those who stay trapped forever. Chapter 12. The courage to think for yourself. Here's the harsh truth. Most people will never think for themselves, not because they can't, but because they're afraid to. It's easier to follow the crowd than to question it. It's easier to accept what you're told than to challenge it. And in today's world, where independent thinking is rare, the price of standing out is high. But the price of staying blind? That's even higher. Think about it. Have you ever held back from saying what you really think because you were afraid of judgment? Ever ignored your gut instinct because it went against what everyone else believed? That's not logic at work. That's fear. And fear kills original thought. The truth is, independent thinking isn't about intelligence. It's about courage. It takes courage to challenge authority. It takes courage to admit you were wrong. It takes courage to go against the grain when everyone else is following the script. That's why so few people do it. And here's the real danger. The world doesn't want you to think for yourself. Schools teach you what to think, not how to think. Media feeds you opinions disguised as facts. Social pressure forces you to conform. Because the moment you start thinking for yourself, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are hard to control. So how do you break free? First, stop looking for permission. You don't need approval to question things. Second, develop the habit of doubt, not in a negative way, but as a tool for truth. When you hear something, ask, is this really true? Where's the evidence? Who benefits from me believing this? Third, get comfortable with discomfort. Thinking for yourself means being okay with uncertainty. It means accepting that you might be wrong, and that's okay. because that's how you grow. But here's the real test. Are you willing to stand alone? Because when you start thinking independently, you will face resistance. People will challenge you, they'll mock you, they'll call you crazy. But the irony, every great thinker in history was once called crazy until the world caught up. So the question isn't, can you think for yourself? It's, do you have the courage to? Because once you do, nothing and no one can control you again. Conclusion. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to comfort, the easy road where you accept what you're told, follow the crowd, and never challenge the world around you. The other? It's harder. It demands that you question everything, think for yourself, and embrace the discomfort of truth. Most people will choose the first path. They'll stay in the illusion, believing they're in control when they're really just following the script. But a few, just a few, will wake up. They'll see through the lies, break free from the conditioning, and take control of their own minds. The question is, which one are you? Critical thinking isn't a skill, it's a weapon. It protects you from manipulation, opens doors you didn't even know existed, and gives you the power to shape your own destiny. But having the weapon isn't enough. You have to use it. Every time you accept something without questioning it, every time you let emotions override logic, every time you choose comfort over truth, you're giving away control, and that's exactly what the world wants. So what are you going to do? Stay asleep or wake up? Let others think for you or take back your own mind? The choice is yours, but remember this. The people who change the world are never the ones who follow blindly. They're the ones who dare to think differently. Are you ready to be one of them? And if you're serious about leveling up your thinking, make sure to check out our next breakdown. It's going to show you how to train your mind to be completely untouchable in a world full of manipulation. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and I'll see you there.